Now, we all know about Bitbucket. I hope we all know about Bitbucket. So using Bitbucket, you can do a lot of wonderful things. You can create as many repositories as you want, private repositories, and I have been using Bitbucket for storing my private repositories for many years. But there is one thing that I don't use on Bitbucket, and that is Bitbucket pages. So in most of the popular code repository managers like GitHub, GitLab, and also Bitbucket, you do have an option to create a website, a static website, not really a dynamic website. So using Bitbucket, you can also have your own subdomain. It will be something like, let us say, your website name .bitbucket.io, something like that. But there is a reason why I don't use Bitbucket for hosting my static website. And the reason is actually very simple. They don't really allow custom domain names. If you want, you can have custom domain names on GitHub. And I did try GitHub for custom domain using, of course, static HTML files. But for some reason, I decided to move to GitLab. GitLab works really well for me. They also have those pipelines. So let us say if I commit a file to my repository, you can actually set up your pipeline that will basically build your site, and it will also deploy. And of course, it is very simple, but you can basically have as many sites as you want. I don't think there is any limit. I have, I think, 3 or 4 sites on GitLab. I am not 100% sure if you can have unlimited sites on GitHub, but on GitHub, as far as I remember, your repository needs to be public. I'm not really sure if they allow private repositories, but on GitLab you can have repositories. You can have your own custom domain. So having a custom domain option is always great because it looks better. I do have my site, which is ravisagar.com, autogrid.info, and linuxindia.com. Linux India with Y, Linux, and then India with Y.com. And I quite enjoy developing sites with just plain HTML. There is also one more site that I have on Netlify. So Netlify is also one service where you can actually configure your GitHub repository. So whenever you commit any code to GitHub repository, your Netlify can pick up those changes and it will deploy and publish a site for you. So you can also take a look at Netlify. But I don't really use Bitbucket pages, unfortunately, although I would love to, but they don't really allow custom domain names. So this is something I wanted to share today. In case you are trying to host a website for free, a static website, of course, you can take a look at GitLab. I think it is great. But having said all that, I still believe that if you're serious about hosting a website, you should have your own custom server, VPS. That is, I think, always a great option. And these days you can buy cheap virtual private servers, and that is always, in my opinion, the best way of hosting a site. It could be a static website, it could be a dynamic website, but in case in the beginning you want something quick and you don't really want to be bothered with buying hosting, you can always take a look at GitLab if you want. I have been talking quite a lot about having your own website, because I think we should always have full control on our data, anything that we are sharing online. For example, for the past 1 month, I have stopped using Twitter directly. So what I do, I post everything on my site ravisagar.in, which is compatible with indie web principles. So whenever I post anything on my ravisagar.in website, I can also decide whether I want to share it as a tweet. And when people reply to that tweet, those replies will be added as a comment. I can also do retweet of different tweets from my website. I can also like a tweet from my website. And of course, I'm talking about Twitter, but I can also do the same thing for any indie web compatible site. So this is something that I have been doing. And the great thing is that everything, all the content, like for example, the retweets, repost, the likes, and all the replies are stored on my site. So if you go to my site ravisagar.in, and if you scroll down at the very bottom, you will find links like repost, and reply. So this is something I wanted to discuss today. Of course, it is a bit in a different direction. We are talking about hosting a static website, maybe using Bitbucket pages if you don't really mind a subdomain. So I hope you enjoyed watching today's video and you learned something new today. Thank you very much.